There, Jazz World. This is Jeff Antoniuk. Nice to see you. Streaming live on Facebook, but I think a lot of you also probably see these videos archived on YouTube. So anyway, welcome. This is Jazz In-Between-isode number 4. And the in-between part refers to, I did about 18 videos called the Jazz Process series, and I'd love for you to check those out. It was essentially me getting ready for a series of really big gigs and sort of what my process behind the scenes was for learning the music. The videos are not about me showing off. The videos are about me figuring out how to get to that place. So I hope that's interesting. The next series of videos is going to start in February. So these are some standalone videos that are sort of in between. So this video today is specifically for saxophone, but I will say that the stuff we're talking about here there's definitely connections to all wind instruments, and I'd say all instruments, whether it's piano or drum set or whatever, there will be very similar ideas to be talked about and thought about. So I hope this video ends up being interesting for everybody, even if you're not a saxophone player. So I'm calling this quantum effects and chaos theory. First of all, I'm a physics geek, and I like that stuff. Really what that refers to is how really small things can have huge effects down the road, and it's hard to know what they're gonna be. So welcome to the frickin' saxophone, right? Or a golf club for that matter. I don't golf much, but I can hit the ball what seems to me the same way twice. Once it goes straight, the other way it goes like 90 degrees wherever, right? So there's something going on I'm not aware of. And this happens with the saxophone constantly. So how these little things that we don't, they're hard to find, they're hard to teach, they're hard to control, how they play out in big, lots of times not so great ways. So that's what I want to talk about today. And the idea I want to talk about is voicing. And then we're going to get into a very specific exercise about how to work with this. So voicing is a great path towards finding a great sound, to having wonderful flexibility, being able to play intervallically on the horn. Understanding voicing lets us talk about altissimo and how to do all this other stuff. It's essentially what's going on inside our throat, let's say. This is what great singers are wonderful at. Or how an orchestral flute player can kind of drown out the orchestra with a flute. How is that possible, right? Or how a great opera singer. You get the idea. So the simplest way to put it is sing a note. I can't sing, by the way. You're going to find that out right away. There's a note. Well, I can also go so I made the note more nasal sounding by changing stuff. I don't even know what I did exactly. I can go ooh, same pitch more or less, but now it became smaller and that ooh sound, right? So all that stuff, all those different timbres we can make have to do with voicing, the shape of our mouth, our throat, all this other stuff. So if I can make those huge changes in my voice, this thing's an amplifier, right? It amplifies what I'm doing here. So if there's funny stuff going on there, or if you're not sure what's going on, or don't have control over it, your saxophone, if you have that sort of nasal thing going on, well, your saxophone's gonna amplify that, and guess what kind of tone you get, right? So that's what we're talking about, voicing. It's sort of that simple and that hard. It's hard to teach. I'm sure there are people out there who are great at teaching it. If you have resources or know someone who's great at this stuff, or a video that talks about it, well, please comment, let me and everybody else know. That's great. I mean, I've studied saxophone for 35 years, and people have sort of talked around the topic. It's hard though, because there's not a lot of feedback. Like, I can't feel the back of my tongue, which is sort of important with voicing, the back of your tongue. I can't feel my nasal cavity, right? So it's hard to, if someone says, lift my left arm, I can do that. If someone says, open my nasal cavity, I guess I can flare my nostrils. Is that it? I don't know. You get the idea. So it's a tricky thing to do. So I'm going to give you a great harmonic exercise that, to me, lets us walk around inside this stuff and figure out what's going on with voicings a little bit. So first of all, harmonics. I'll show you this sheet in just a little bit, and I'd actually like to send you a PDF of this thing. We'll talk about that more later. So I'm going to talk about the harmonic series. The first line of music you see here is the harmonic series based on the note C. So this is a physical constant in the universe. So when you hear a gate squeak a C, And when you hear a cow moo a C, and when you hear Cannonball Adderley play a C, it's the same pitch, but they have a different timbre. So what's that about? Where does that sound come from? And so my understanding of it is all those harmonics, when you play a C, so I'll just play it on the horn. This is a B-flat concert. Doesn't sound like a squeaking gate, doesn't sound like Cannonball, but it was that C on the horn, concert B-flat. So the reason we have different timbres is that when I play that C, all this infinite series of overtones is there. There's a C an octave above that C that's sounding inside the tone. So this is acoustics here. There's a G above that, an octave and a fifth above that note I just played. There's a C 2 octaves above it. There's an E 2 octaves and a third above that, and it goes up infinitely. So that's on this sheet of paper. So that's just, to me, interesting acoustics. So the amount of third overtone makes a bassoon sound different than a baritone saxophone, or whatever, right? So there's plenty written on this topic. Okay, so far not very helpful, maybe a little bit interesting. So here's the exercise. Let me back up for a second. Saxophonists have probably played harmonic exercises forever. I remember when I was in high school and went to, classical saxophone camp or whatever, all the kids who were really hot could like play these bugle calls. They'd finger a low B flat, and then they could play the harmonics above it. So I'm playing a low B flat, no octave key the whole time. Now the first overtone or harmonic, essentially the same thing, means the same thing, is an octave above that. So I can play a low B flat, and if I change some stuff, I can get it to sound an octave above without changing any notes, no keys. So I made that change by doing something with my throat and my mouth and my air. Voicing, right? I made some sort of change. We could put it into that category. So I can go from there. Low B flat. Octave above. A fifth above that. Now I'm going to play an F, fingering a low B flat. Now I'm going to play a B flat on the first ledger line, fingering a low B flat. All those notes. So again, you'll see it on the sheet. So just understanding for right now that when any note, and so it's not just low B flat on the saxophone, any pitch has all those overtones in it. And so this is just an interesting and good and fruitful tool for us to learn. So now, I've heard millions of people getting those overtones. I can tell they're biting the reed. That's one way to get it. Right? And my lip hurts, literally hurts right now, because I was getting that by biting, and I wasn't being very accurate, but you get the point. That's no good. Why would you do a harmonic exercise that teaches you to bite the saxophone? I would rather you never do harmonics if that's going to be the approach. And so, frankly, I sort of avoided harmonics and rarely taught them for a while until I learned this particular exercise. I think it's a really good one. It's a valuable one. I actually learned this in 1985 from a great saxophonist and teacher, Pat LaBarbera. And that was the only time I've met him. A fabulous player, used to play with Elvin Jones and a million other things, lived in Toronto and probably still does. And I met him at a jazz festival, and he was so kind as to give me a lesson for free. And he kind of hand wrote this thing out, which I, over the years sort of cleaned up and put all on this sheet. Again, I'm happy to send you this thing. So here is the deal. We're looking at the second line here, and I'm going to play a B flat scale on the horn, and the rule is I'm only going to use the lowest possible fingering. So the black note heads are what you're going to hear, which is a B flat major scale. The sort of half note looking diamond note heads below it are what I'm fingering. Okay? So let me walk through this one time. So I'm going to play a middle B flat sounding like this, but I'm fingering low B flat. Okay, Okay, so first of all, that's hard enough for plenty of people. To play a low B flat, but find that right there. That takes a while. I'll tell you what, on my soprano, it's different. On my alto, it's different. On my Mark 6, this is an Eastman saxophone. On my Mark 6, it's different. On my other Mark 6, it's different again. So, wow, it's each horn and mouthpiece setup and everything really makes this different. So we learn how to control it. So if all you do this month is able to get that first B flat, great, because how did you get it? By toying around with voicing, lifting your tongue, lowering your tongue, saying ah, dropping your shoulders, like all these kind of things affect in here, and that's what we're trying to learn. So let me move through this exercise. First thing I'm doing is fingering low B flat. So here's what the scale is going to sound like. A B flat scale on the saxophone from middle B flat on the third line up to the top ledger line. So I finger the first B flat, fingering low B flat. So I'm getting this sound, but fingering low B flat, no octave key. Now here's the important thing. Hang out on that note. This is long tone. So I want you to play that note. When you finally get it, now experiment. Do all these things. There's some hints on the sheet that I'll send you. The pitch should be moving around. I'm not worried about being in tune. I'm worried about seeing what equals what. What happens when I drop my jaw? Does the sound get bigger or smaller? What happens when I use more pressure? What happens when I think about my upper teeth? What happens when I wiggle my left ear, right? And you'll see, oh, this equals that. That's the whole point of what we're doing here today. Okay, B flat. Now to move up the scale, I'm going to play the C in the middle of the staff, fingering low C. Now I finger the D on the fourth line, fingering low D. So I'm essentially fingering an octave below. So I'm getting the higher D with no octave key. And of course I'm moving fast for, just showing you what's going on. You wouldn't move this fast. I go up to E flat, same thing. I'm fingering low E flat, no octave key. Here's where things change. To play the next F on the top of the staff, if I have my octave key, that's called the fundamental. I can take my octave key off and play the first overtone, fingering low F, getting high F. But remember the one rule we have, you're always going to finger the lowest possible note. So for that F, I'm going to finger low B flat. It's complicated if this is the first time you're thinking about it. It's all on the sheet. So B flat is, I'm playing first overtone. B flat, C is first overtone, D is first overtone, E flat is first overtone. When I move to F, I'm now jumping and playing a second overtone. So. That can be a hard transition, going from a first overtone to a second overtone. I'll keep going. G is a second overtone, so I'm playing, you're hearing a G on top of the staff, but I'm fingering a low C. You're hearing this, but I'm fingering low C. And in the little time I played it, I hope you heard how I adjusted things. There were some extra overtones right to begin with. I got rid of those by adjusting something, and it would be hard for me to talk about what I adjusted. So that's why you do the exercise. It's harder to talk about for me to explain. It's easier for you to do and figure out for yourself. Okay? So now the high A, I'm fingering a low D. Cool, that's a second overtone. I finger a low D. A D above that would be the first overtone. The A I just played is the second overtone. Okay, when I get to that top B flat, I'm jumping again. So I can play this top B flat four ways. I can play it as the fundamental, meaning finger high B flat with the octave key, right? I can play it as if it's a first overtone, meaning I'm fingering middle B flat, no octave key. I can play it as a second overtone, fingering low E flat. But our rule is that I'm using the lowest possible fingering. So now I'm fingering low B flat and getting it as a third overtone. So just doing that B flat scale, I'm using first, second, and third overtones. The higher I go, the greater, the bigger the number of the overtones. So let me do that scale for you. Okay, two things. I took a big breath, important. Second thing, what happened? I aimed too high. I voiced too high, so I didn't get the note I was supposed to start on. I was aiming for the B flat. I think I got an F, 2 overtones above. Bad Jeff. Okay, so I did that one on purpose. So I was changing overtones, and again, I voiced too high. A lot of us are going to find this. So that time I got it, but you could hear there were other overtones in there. So all this fine tuning is what's going on. Okay, I don't want the video to get too long. An important thing will be for you to look at this sheet. So send me an email, jeffantoniuk@gmail.com. You can instant message me on Facebook. And here's the thing, subscribe to the YouTube channel for 2 reasons. One, I won't send you this if you don't subscribe because I want to stay in touch with you guys. That's the best way I can do it. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel and I'll send you more goodies. You'll know when a new video comes up. I'm not going to spam you or anything. So get in touch with me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Jeff Antoniuk Educator. And I'm more than happy to send you this PDF. It's hard to hear this stuff and follow what was going on. So when you see it in front of you, I think it'll make a lot more sense. Here's the thing. For pro players, for teachers, for folks who have done overtones your whole life, this is my favorite one. And for a couple reasons. Remember I said before, I don't like most overtone exercises because they are harmonic exercises. They allow you to bite. You're encouraged to bite to get the next note out. I like this one for a couple reasons. One is that it's very linear. Like most of these exercises, we're leaping a fifth or leaping an octave, leaping a third. And so we're enticed to bite. This, it's linear, right? You're playing a scale. Your ear. The other thing is we can aim at the next note. You've heard major scale your whole life. You know what the next note's going to sound like. So you're not just biting and guessing. So to me, this takes a lot of guesswork out of it. You're less enticed to bite to get the note. Here's the thing, when you hold the note for longer now, I said this is a long tone exercise, when you hold that pitch for 10 seconds, the idea is, can you get your jaw off the reed, right? Can you do this with air and with voicing and not with pressure, right? And so lead trumpet players talk about, something similar where it's not about mashing the horn against your face to get the high notes. That ain't it, right? And it's the same with playing the drums. You're not using your arm to hit the drum. There's a different dynamic to get a beautiful sound out of the drums. So let's leave it there. I'm looking forward to getting in contact with you folks. I would love to hear your experience with this exercise or other harmonics exercises, any ideas on how you work with or were taught voicing or how you teach voicing. This is a great topic and it doesn't get talked about so much. So I hope this was valuable to you. Again, subscribe to the channel and you'll see these once a week videos come up. I really appreciate all the comments and many views. It's wonderful. I'm glad that this stuff is resonating with people. So it's Jeff Antoniuk Educator is where you can find all these videos archived on YouTube. I always love the comments and agreements and disagreements and discussions and everything else. That's really what this is all about. There's a million ways to do this stuff and play this instrument, and I'm just excited to see how you all do it. And if this stuff helps you out, that's wonderful. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Take care.